I want you to do this with me as we jump into the talk today. I want you to think of the word drama and now think of a person. No elbows, okay? Think of drama and then think of the person. Chances are, if you've thought of the person in mind, you're like, that's the most dramatic person I know. That drama always follows them. They're surrounded by drama. They're always causing drama, right? Like, you can probably all think of that person. If you can't think of that person, just know someone else might be thinking of you. And but we all have, most likely, we all have some person or some people in our life that we say, when I think of drama, that's who I think of. That's the person I think of. But here's something that I think is true. And actually, we're going to jump right into our notes today. So if you want to pull out your note card and use that to fill along, there's some blanks you can go follow along with today. Here's something that I think is true. It's the first thing in your notes, is that everyone I know wants to be drama-free. Would you agree? Everyone I know wants to be drama-free. We don't want drama in our life. We don't want it to gravitate towards us or around us. If we're honest with ourselves, ultimately what we really would feel, what we really want is people that I know, like, we want to live at peace. We want peace in our life, and drama has this way of eroding that peace, right? Of stirring up some other things. But people, and I know, and that you know, we want to have peace in our life. We want to be drama-free. Now, I went ahead and I looked up dictionary.com's definition for the word drama, and I want us to actually, let's look at it together, okay? This is what dictionary defines as drama. An exciting, emotional, or unexpected series of events or set of circumstances. Now, hold that there for a second. The person that you just thought of, and that definition of drama, that's not what we're talking about, okay? That's more of like when you watch a movie, that's a drama, or different things like that. But so what I did is, so I looked at that definition, I'm like, well, that's not a very good definition. That's not what we're talking about here, because we're thinking about that person that just stirs up drama. We're thinking about teenage drama, like middle school drama, high school drama, single person drama, dating drama, marriage drama, second marriage drama, blended family drama, drama at the workplace, drama in your neighborhood, drama in your HOA. Okay, this is the type of drama that we're talking about, okay? So I went to the fountain of all truth, and I looked at urbandictionary.com for the word drama, and I looked for some different examples. In Urban Dictionary, if you've never been there, use caution. But it is fascinating because anyone can play. Anyone can submit different definitions of what they view as defined. Now, I want you, before you see this, I want to make a disclaimer. Ladies, I didn't write this. I didn't make this up. I'm not saying I agree with it. All I'm saying is that this is what was on urbandictionary.com for drama. So here's the first one. It's this. It's something women, and especially teenage girls, thrive on. Anyone agree? No, I don't, obviously. Ladies, I didn't make this up, okay? I'm just reading it. Here's another definition. We've got a few here to look at. Here's another definition Urban Dictionary gives us. If you cause it, it makes you look very bad and extremely insecure. Drama usually starts with people saying things that they shouldn't say at all. I mean, come on, all of us have mothers that told us the rule that if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, right? Anyone you were told that growing up, you've told that to somebody, right? But drama gets stirred up because of the things we say. Here's another definition that it gives us of drama. It says unnecessary emotional turmoil that, I didn't write this, okay? I didn't write this. An emotional turmoil that women love to cause and partake in. The most common cause of drama with women are love, sex, and relationships. Fellas, let's be honest for a second. This is true for us too. But then it goes on, and this, women cause drama because they know it drives men nuts and use it to play hard to get. One synonym it gives us for the word drama, and I think this is fascinating, is the inability to maintain relationships. That's certainly true. Drama has this cause where it divides people. He said this, she said that. Can you believe what they did? Can you believe what they said? Right? And it divides us in relationships. A couple different things that on Urban Dictionary allows you to do, because you can submit your own things, is it gives you to give some examples. So one person, this one's not on the screen, but one person just simply says, watch any crap show on that channel, that CW channel, that's drama. Or they say, just talk to my sister. That drama that girl stirs up is unbelievable. Okay, but we all have someone in our life that we can think of as surrounded by drama And we've all experienced drama in our life, and maybe we've been the cause of it, maybe it's something that's happened to us, but nobody I know wants to live with drama. And so when it comes to drama, those are the better definitions that we're talking about, though, are the things that surround us that really erode the peace in our life. Because you and I, we want peace. We don't want to wake up with this overwhelming emotion of just, do they like me? Do they not like me? Did they say this? What rumors? These things erode at us and they irritate us. They give us anxiety. They're not shaping the person that we really want to be. And so we want to avoid drama. We want to avoid being dragged into these situations or experience these things where we're having to wonder, why did I do that? Why did I say that? Who invited them? Why did I say yes to this? How did I get in this situation in the first place? We should have just eloped. We want to avoid some of these drama and these pitfalls in our life. And so while some drama seems to be unavoidable, I think there are some very practical things that you and I that we can do to avoid some of the drama, to live a life that is far more drama-free. But it takes you and it takes me being intellectually honest with ourselves to ask ourselves good questions and address the areas that drama seems to seep in and creep in and stick in our life. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to look at 3 questions that I think any one of us can ask ourselves, all 3 questions. And if we can answer them honestly, and if we can address them, that this has the ability for us to ultimately live more drama-free and find more peace. And so these are in your notes. Here's question number 1. It's this. Question number 1. What choices in my life do I need to own? What choices in my life do I need to own? The truth is that it seems like from a lot of the drama that we've experienced, we can kind of track it back maybe to some choices that we've made, to some decisions that we've made in a moment. We didn't know how big of a decision it was, but the drama that we have, the drama that gets stirred up in our lives today often can be tracked back to some choices that we made. And the truth is that many times we don't own it. We don't own our part. We don't take responsibility for our part in it. And if we're honest with ourselves, we're honest with each other, it's like, well, I know why I wrestle with this is because for me, there's nothing to own. I didn't do anything wrong. You ever feel like that? It was their fault. It was all on them. I think we live in an interesting time in America because something's happened, and maybe it's always been like this, or maybe it's newer in our culture nowadays, but it seems to be that quite possibly because of the rights given to each one of us in our Constitution, that our thinking gets a little twisted. And the best way I can express it would be like this, is that because of the rights given to me by my Constitution, I have the right to be irresponsible. It's within my freedom, within my right to just live how I want to live, even if that means sometimes I'm irresponsible. Because, hey, I can do what I want. I have the right to do what I want and to say what I want. But who are you to hold me accountable to it? Somewhere along the way, because of the rights maybe given to me in the Constitution, I have the right to be irresponsible, but you do not have the right to hold me accountable. There's a shift that has happened. And we can be as irresponsible as we want, and then we push back on accountability. Right? Because it's our freedom of speech. It's our freedom to do these things, but I don't need to be held accountable. And as a result, I think we've become more and more irresponsible as a culture. And irresponsibility is when I don't take responsibility for the things that I am responsible for. Right? It's not my fault. It's not my fault she lied to me. It's not my fault he said this. It's not my fault. Nobody could really work for him. It's not my fault the teacher, they just had it out for me. It's not my fault they were trying to trick me. It's not my fault, and you got to wait until you hear my story. It's not my fault, and we deflect fault. We blame others, and I think the reason why it's so difficult for us to own our part in history is because there's a better story to tell. None of us want to tell the story where we put the blame on ourselves. None of us want to tell the story where we take responsibility and say, hey, this is how I screwed up, because there's a better story that we could tell, and that's pointing blame at somebody else. That's deferring and pointing at what they did. If it weren't for them, if it weren't for what they said, the way that they lied, the way that they did this, and they just make it so difficult, they're so unreasonable, they're so unbalanced. If it weren't for them, life would be different for me. And one of the best examples I think that we can use to see how we do this is actually from Scripture. And I think this quick story that we're going to look at helps us realize how easy it is to not own our part, but to defer and to point fingers and to blame the people around us. And if you open up Scripture and you open up to the very book, the first book of the Bible, it's the book of Genesis. And in the beginning of it, it gives us like God's creation account. And for some people, they hear the creation account and they're not sure really what to think of it and how to make sense of it all. And was it a 6 literal day creation? Was it 6 time period? And I want you to know that here, we don't get divided over issues like that. You can believe what you believe because the narrative, the meaning, the purpose behind the origin of Genesis and the creation account is to understand there is a God who spun things into motion, and he created the world, and he created you. And he created this world to be in relationship with you. And he created this world with you in mind. And so from the very beginning, we see that God creates you and me, and he creates us as co-image bearers of God. And so we're going to look at a few verses here in Genesis 1. It says this, it says, so God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. Then God blessed them and said, be fruitful and multiply. And so God creates things. He creates what's called the Garden of Eden. He's got Adam and Eve there as the first man, the first woman. And he says, I want you to be fruitful. I want you to, you own the garden. You can control it. You can work it. Like, this is your playground. And I want you to be fruitful. And I want you to multiply. And Adam stops God and says, God, wait, are you sure? Shouldn't we like have some more rules, God? Like, God, what if you gave us like 10 big commandments? Could we have something like that, God? And God's like, no. Okay, if you've read the story, you know this isn't in there. But this is essentially what's happening is God put them in the garden and said, here's your playground. I want you to be fruitful. I want you to multiply. This is your home. This is your world to make it what it is. And God says, you can pretty much do whatever you want. Really, God? We can do whatever we want? Absolutely, you can do whatever. Can we run around naked, God? Yeah, if you want, go run around naked. Can we just make babies all the time, God? Absolutely, do whatever you want. This is what, except there's just one rule that I have, and it seems like a strange rule because all the fruit on all the trees looks good and it tastes good and it's for the nourishment of your body, but there's one tree and there's one rule that God sets up to establish his authority where they have a choice. Am I going to walk in obedience to God or am I going to do things my own way? So he says, there's one tree. I don't want you to eat from this one tree. As good as the fruit looks, as probably as the nourishing it could be for your body, I want you to stay away from this one tree. And Adam and Eve did what any one of us would have done as a kid when we're told we can't do that one thing, is they gravitated towards it, right? And eventually they broke the one rule that God gave them and said, don't do this. They broke the one rule that they were given, and when they broke this rule, sin enters the world. And you might be watching online or you might be here today and you're like, I don't really believe in sin. That's like this ultra-religious word. I don't really talk about sin. Call it what you want, but I think every one of us here listening today, you know that there are rules, there is morality, there is a right and there is a wrong, and sometimes we break our own rules that we set for ourselves. That we have standards that we set for. I want to be a healthy individual and I want to work out and I want to eat right, yet I can't put down the donuts and the cookies or the beer or whatever it is, right? And you break your own rule for your own life. You want to be a kind person, yet words come out and you can't take them back. You're like, why did I say that? And you break your own rule that you have for your life. And you feel bad about it, and then, but you move on, but then a few days later, you do it again. And you break their own rules. So you can call it sin, you can call it whatever you want, but I don't need the Bible to tell you that you already know there's something wrong with you. And there's something wrong with me. And we break our own rules that we have for ourselves, let alone the rules that God is putting into our lives. That somewhere along the way in the human race, something bad blended into the way that we think and the way that we act. And so here's what happened after they disobeyed the one rule that God gave them and rejected God's authority. Here's what happened. We read this. It says, that evening they heard the Lord walking into the garden, and they hid from him among the trees. But the Lord called out to the man, where are you? And he answered, well, I heard you in the garden and I was afraid, so I hid from you because I was naked. Who told you that you were naked? God asked, did you eat the fruit from the tree that I told you not to eat from? And Adam says, you know what, I did. And I take full responsibility. This is on me. In fact, the woman, she had nothing to do with Eve. Leave her out of this. God, this is totally on me. And I own it. It's me. Now, if you know the story, you know that's not the case. His response to God in that moment, the very first thing, in fact, both the very first thing the two people did after they sinned, after they did what was wrong, is they both blamed somebody else. They deferred, they deflected, they didn't own their part, they blamed. When they got caught, instead of owning it, they pointed a finger at somebody else. Adam's response was this to God. He said, the woman that you put here with me, God, she gave me the fruit and I ate it. What's he saying? God, this is your fault. You put her here with me. If it weren't for you and it weren't for her, I would have never eaten this. So why don't you two go have a little powwow? You guys figure this out. I'll wait for an apology because this is on you. And the funny thing is, the thing is that it was true. God did put her there. The way the story reads is she did give him the fruit. He told the truth while not owning his part. It was a partial truth. He told the truth, but he didn't tell the whole truth because he was hiding his part of blame, his part of owning it, his part of the fault behind what they did. And the truth is that when we don't own our part of our past choices, that we begin to undermine our own future. Because we're not being honest. We're not owning it. Here's Eve's response. The Lord asked the woman, why did you do this? And she said, it's the snake that tricked me into eating it. She says, it's not my fault. It was the snake. The snake made me do it, right? She says, it's not my fault, which is true. The snake, the deceiver, the devil, tricked her. But it's only partial true. And it's so easy to tell a better story when we point fingers and blame other people than owning our part in the story. That's not the story that we like to tell. And pointing fingers, blame enables us to smuggle our issues into our own future, and it sets us up for repeat performances because we haven't dealt with it. We haven't owned it. Owning your part of the story of your past, it has this way of lowering your emotional temperature. It brings clarity to future decision making. And the more that we can clear out the junk, the more that we can own our part, the more clarity it brings so that we can see our paths forward. So we can see the right steps to take so that next time doesn't have to be like the last time, that we can have a better way forward. So I wonder, what choices in your life do you need to own? What's the drama that is happening in your life because of your inability to own some previous choices and decisions and moments? What part of your history that has brought you to where you are today that do you need to take responsibility for? That's question number one. Number two is this: what hurts in my life do I need to release? What hurts in my life do I need to release? And just like not owning your past, or just like not owning your part of your past allows you to smuggle your issues into your future, not releasing your hurts, not releasing the offenses that other people have done against you, it allows other people to smuggle their issues into your future. So when we don't own our past issues get to be smuggled into our future that we bring in. And now when we don't release certain things, then other people get to smuggle their issues into our future as well. And who wants to allow the people that have hurt us and wronged us and mistreated us, who wants to allow them to influence our future? None of us want to allow the people that have hurt you to have an influence, maybe on the daily, or that it creeps up, it rises up into our future. And so what can we do to make sure, what can we do to help alleviate, what can we do to let go of these things and these hurts, these pains that people have done? How can we release those things so that way it doesn't have to impact our future? Let me ask you a really dumb question. How long do you intend to let the people who have hurt you continue to impact your future? How long do you intend to let those who have mistreated you influence your future? And I totally understand that this is something that's far easier said from up on stage like this than it is practice. And I'm someone that I've been greatly hurt by a number of people in my life, just like many of you here. And I've spent hours with a counselor helping me unpack some of these hurts because I don't want to hold on to them. And forgiveness, releasing, letting it go is far easier said than done. And the reality is what I've discovered even in counseling is that so many things that I'm like, okay, I need to work through this. I need to release this. And then through discussion and even some trauma therapy things, that what happens, you discover that what you're actually holding on to in this moment is directly tied to something that happened a decade ago. or even 3 decades ago from your childhood. And you're like, wow, the reason why this hurts so bad is because I actually never let go of this. And there are some things that have been smuggled into our future, into our current reality from our past because of hurts and pains and grievances that we had towards people that we've never learned to release. We've never learned to let go of. And we're experiencing the residue of that in our lives today. And what happens today, the hurt we experience today, often even feels bigger because we don't even recognize what it's tied to from the things we've never released in our past. And so how long do you intend to allow the people who have mistreated you to influence your future? Another week? Another month? Another season? Another neighborhood you move into? Another career you have? Another marriage you have? How long? Right? And you're like, well, I never asked for any of this. Well, duh. That's drama. You don't always get to ask for it. Sometimes it just happens. You don't plan for it. You didn't ask for it. But you do get to control how long you carry it, how long you perpetuate it, how long you keep it going, keep it stirred up, how long this drama gets to influence your life. You know, because of what I do, I get a chance to hear from a lot of people. I get to hear stories of life change and transformation. And I love when I hear a story for someone and they're like, dude, this is what I was like. But then I found Jesus and God started to transform my heart and transform my life. And you look at them and you're like, oh my goodness, how did you get from here to here? Like they've experienced so much hurt or mistreatment or abuse, or they've gone through so many different hardships that you're like, wow, your life should be all jacked up, but you look normal. And what happens in every single one of these stories is they all get to a point where they can tell their story and say, I went through this, and I was addicted to this, and I experienced this, and I was hurt by this, and I was abused here, and they get to the point where they say this little 2-word phrase. All of them use the same phrase at some point in the story where they say, I decided. This happened to me. This was my reality. This is what I was going through. But at some point, I decided that wasn't going to be my future. I decided that I didn't have to put up with that any longer. I decided that doesn't have to be who I was. And at one point, they basically are saying, I can let my past remind me of where I've been, but my past does not have to define me. Because I decided to let God change me. I decided to follow Jesus. I decided to give that up. I decided to get help. I decided to go to counseling. I decided to be honest with my closest family members. I decided. And it paves a pathway forward. I decided to release these things. I decided. Here's the good news. Is that no matter what you've experienced, what you've gone through, what you're holding on to, what the hurts that are there, is that you have the ability, and again, I'm not minimizing, I'm not just trying to say, oh, with just these, you say these words and it transforms it all, but you have the ability to decide that your past doesn't have to influence your future. That the hurts and the pains that you've gone through and the grievances you've experienced doesn't have to directly impact your future. They don't have to be smuggled in. The hurts and pains from other people don't get to continue to have this weight on your future. Okay? The spiritual term for releasing is the word forgiveness, right? I'm sure none of you in the room here are surprised by that, right? That's not new information, this word forgiveness. And the authors of the Bible, when they talk about releasing the past, they use this word to forgive. And I want to read just one quick little section together from the New Testament that Paul writes to Christians living in Ephesus. He says this, he says, don't sin by letting anger control you. Don't let the sun go down while you are still angry, for anger gives a foothold to the devil. Notice that Paul doesn't say here, hey, don't be angry, right? That's not the reality. He just simply says there's a way to be angry without it controlling you. There's a way to walk through your anger without it directly controlling your life. And he says, hey, I don't want you to let the sun go down while you are still angry. And sometimes we read this and we take it very literally. And if you're married, you're like, we have to work this out, and we have to work this out tonight because the Bible says we can't go to bed until the sun's, and like we have to deal with this. And that's great. And if you can do that, that's fantastic. But let's be honest. Sometimes there are some anger things that can't be dealt with before one sunset, right? It takes a little longer than that. It's a little deeper than that. It's a little bigger than that. But there is some anger that we've got to deal with. And Paul's basically saying that, hey, I want you to ask yourself this question. It's the same question that we started with, but here's how Paul might say it. It says, how many sunsets are you going to let pass before you deal with your anger? How many sunsets, how many days are you going to let go by before you decide to deal with it? That you have a decision to make. And then he says something that's so brilliant. He says that anger gives us foothold to the devil. In other words, that don't let the devil, the enemy, the accuser, the deceiver, set up shop in your mind, and don't let the accuser set up shop in your life and in your heart. And if you don't do something about your anger, and you may have good reason for being angry, and their injustice towards you might be very valid, but if you don't do something about what you've experienced, you're letting deception set up shop in your future. And if you don't want that to happen, you've got to do something about it. Don't let the sun continue to set on your anger. Decide to deal with it. And then Paul continues when he says this. He says, I want you to get rid of all bitterness and rage and anger and harsh words and slander. What's he saying? I want you to get rid of drama, like all this stuff that causes drama. I want you to get rid of it. Imagine this. Imagine if you could instead be kind to each other. Imagine this, if you could instead be tenderhearted, forgiving one another, just as God through Christ has forgiven you. Again, Paul, he starts here with like this action. I want you to get rid of these things. Like he sounds like you can choose to make this possible. I want you to get rid of anger, get rid of rage, get rid of slander, get rid of these harsh words. And how do you do this? Paul says you have to decide to forgive. You have to decide to forgive. Forgiveness is not an emotion, it's a decision. And it basically means to pardon someone. It's an acknowledgement of, not of innocence. They can be completely guilty, but when you pardon someone, it says, you're guilty, but you don't owe me. You did the crime. You did the deed. You did this. But to pardon someone means that I'm not going to make you pay. You don't owe me anything. I'm not going to demand payment from you. You're pardoned. And then Paul reminds us that when God pardoned us, that he doesn't hold our past actions and our past injustices against us for our future relationship with him. And Paul's like, this is what I want you to understand. Just as God has pardoned you, just as God has forgiven you through Christ, I want you to do that for the other people that have stirred up drama in your life. And you didn't ask for it, and you didn't want it, and you didn't always cause it. But I want you to be able to pardon them, to forgive them, to release that over so that they don't get to influence your future. That's question number 2. Question number 3 is this. What areas of my life do I need to rethink? What areas of my life do I need to rethink? When you stop and think about it, a lot of drama in your life can be traced back to maybe a decision that you made. And in the moment, you thought it was a great decision. You thought it was the perfect decision. You thought it was the decision that was going to bring joy, fulfillment, contentment to your life, and only to realize you were absolutely wrong. Right? You made the choice, you made the decision, you thought it was the right decision, only to realize that, man, you were wrong. And it could have been a relational decision, it could have been a financial decision, it could have been a career decision, it could have been a moving across the country or across town decision. But once you made the decision and you experienced the outcome of it, you realized it was the wrong decision. Anybody you have something like that? Where you can look back and like, I thought this was the right thing, but it turns out it seems pretty like it was the wrong thing. We probably all have a few of those in our past, right? But on the flip side, have you ever been in that situation where you were about to make a decision and you just knew it was the right decision? You've been praying for this answer to this decision and you've been wanting this guidance, the direction, and you're like, yes, you're about to make this decision only to find out, or only right as you're about to make the decision, like the details just fell apart from underneath you and the plan came apart and you couldn't follow through and you couldn't do it, you couldn't accomplish it, you couldn't move there, you couldn't build that relationship, you couldn't do this. And then 6 months or a year passed down the road, and then you realize, like, wow, I'm really grateful that didn't happen. Like, I thought I knew what I wanted, but now that I see where I'm at now, I can see how that would have actually been the wrong decision. See, what we've just admitted, if we felt like either one of those, if you admit that sometimes you really don't know what's best for you. And I don't always know what's best for me. For some of us, if we're really, really gut level honest with ourselves, we would say that we are not intentionally like living our lives in a way that we're prioritizing God's kingdom in our lives. Because if we're honest, we're just trying to keep up. And so we have decisions to make of where to live and where to work and what to do with our money and what to do with our kids and what to do with our families and what to do. And we often just try to make decisions that we think are best for us, but we don't always know what's best for us. And we're just trying to play this game of keeping up with our kids, keeping up with our finances, keeping up with the demands, keeping up with the tournaments, keeping up with all these different spinning plates that we have moving. And we haven't actually sat down and really evaluated and asked the questions, are the decision that I'm making, are the plates that I'm spinning and the things I'm trying to balance in life, are these things actually helping me? Are these things actually really aligned with God's kingdom in my life? Or am I just running this rat race that everybody else seems to be running? And if we're not intentional about consistently evaluating the direction of our life, we'll find that we have become spectators in a life that we didn't even want. Because we've got to be intentional. That's why the Apostle Paul, he writes to followers in Rome, to followers of Jesus living in Rome, and he writes these words. Some of you have heard this before. He says this, he says, don't copy the behaviors and the customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way that you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. The thought that Paul is giving them is this: if you simply pick up your feet and just let the current sweep you, just float and pick up your feet and don't anchor yourself, just let the current of culture, let it sweep you along wherever it happens to be going, then you're going to just end up in the exact same place that everybody else ends up. Paul says you can copy the customs, you can copy the behaviors, you can copy the patterns of this world, and if you do that, that's fine, but guess what? You're going to end up looking like, sounding like, being like everybody else in the world. You'll just be like a copycat of everybody else. So you have to ask yourself, when it comes to my life, do I want my life to look like everybody else? When it comes to the way I feel passion and purpose to my life, do I want that to look like everybody else? When it comes to my marriage, do I want that to look like everybody else's marriage? When it comes to my finances, do I want those to look like everybody else's finances? When it comes to my parenting, do I do that just like everybody else? Or are there better ways? Are there more kingdom-minded ways to live in response to what God is doing in our lives? Paul says that when you open up your mind, and when you stop and you reflect, when you stop and consider, when you pause and evaluate and allow God to change the way you think, then you actually get clarity around how God wants you to live. And when you discover how God wants you to live, you also discover that God's good and pleasing and perfect. And when you think differently, you become transformed. You change. And next time is not just like the last time. This is why being, I think, rooted in a local church is so important to our spiritual well-being and to our well-being as humanity, because it challenges and shapes the way that we think about things. I think this is why being rooted in a group and having a relationship, rubbing shoulders with other people, you're not just looking at the backs of heads, but you're actually sharing life with other people. It roots you in some like-minded relationships that helps encourage you and spur you on in life. It makes a difference. And as you talk about and as you evaluate your life and you stretch your mind and you say, God, I want to think differently. I want you to renew me. I want to rethink some things. And God begins to make things more clear for you. Gives you a little more direction, a little more guidance. If you think the way you've always thought, you're going to get what you've always got. And God has this way of saying, let me reshape. Let me help you rethink. Let me help you reconsider some things, because next time can be different from the last time. You don't have to be repeating the same errors and the mistakes. If we rethink some areas in our life, we're going to be more willing to submit to God's way of life. So, because you want and I want, we want to be drama-free. We want to live with more peace in our life. And because drama causes this tension and robs you of your peace. And because God's will for you is actually good and it's actually pleasing and it's perfect. And because not following God's ways tends to lead to drama, you should take some time to answer these questions. Take some time to rethink any areas of your life that are in contrast with God's ways for your life. So if you want to be drama-free and you want to find more peace, what choices do you need to own? Ask yourself, what choices do I need to own? Will you continue to point and blame and smuggle your past issues into your future? Or will you decide to just take responsibility? Tell the true story, the honest story, even when it's hard, even when it makes you vulnerable, even when you don't want to tell it, but you own your part of the story so you can deal with you. And what hurts do you need to release or forgive? How long do you intend to let the people who mistreated you influence your future? Will you decide to forgive, not for their benefit, but for your benefit? And what areas of your life do you need to rethink? Will your life look just like everybody else's? Will you continue to do things the way that you've always done them, or will you decide to align your life with God's ways and discover clarity on exactly who He is and who He created you to be? If we can just take some honest moments, pause, consider these questions, I think this is what can lead us to being drama-free as much as we can control it. That we can experience more peace. What do I need to own? What do I need to release? And what do I need to rethink? Let's pray together. God, as we think of these three questions, I'm sure all of us think of them a little bit differently through our own lens, but there are some things, God, that we need to own. And we've deflected blame for a long time, so much so that we actually don't believe we're at fault. God, would you help us to process this honestly? Would you illuminate areas in our life where we can see maybe the mistakes and blunders that we've made and how they've affected and caused drama in our relationships with others? God, will we own our part of the story even when we don't want to tell that side of it? God, would you help us to release some things? Some of us have been hurt greatly. Things that are out of our control. But God, we are so grateful for the way that you've pardoned us, that you've forgiven us, that you don't hold our past injustices against us, but you step into our future relationship with you now. And you unify us with you. You reconcile us to yourself. God, we can't change the actions of others. And we can't change their past or their future. But God, we have say so in what happens right now. And God, so there's for some of us, we need to say, God, I release this to you. I give this to you, God. Would you help me to forgive them? Because it's been exhausting and hard to carry the weight of their injustice into my future. It's been smuggled in. But God, I can see it and I don't want it. And I choose to release it. And God, for some of us, there's just some areas in our life that we need to rethink. God, would you help us to align our lives to look more and more like Jesus? That we live, think, and act and speak the way that Jesus did. That we rethink our priorities and say, God, how does this align with your kingdom and what you're doing? God, would you help us to find peace and live drama-free? And lastly, I wanted to say this, is that if you're in the room and you're watching online and you just say, I just need to start my relationship with God, and you just pray with me right now. God, I choose you. I choose to put my trust and my faith and my hope in you. I've experienced so much drama and I'm tired of it and it's exhausting. But God, I want to put my faith in you and follow and walk in your direction. I choose you today. I choose you for the first time. I choose you for the first time in a long time. God, I choose you in this moment. Help me to walk. Help me to follow. Would you lead me as my king, as my example? In Jesus' name, amen.